Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about something that's quite common in not only in my inbox, but the inbox of a lot of travel journalists, bloggers, vloggers. One of the most common questions that we receive has to do with money. And you guys have probably seen this comment below in a lot of these videos on my channel is, hey Eric, I want to go to Europe for 2 months. How much should I budget? In comment, in question. And like, I don't want to be a dick about it. I love helping, I love answering questions. But what I hate is when people don't help themselves. Probably one of the most important things before you ask somebody for help is to do your own research, to do your own work first, and then reach out to somebody to fill in the gaps. That shows that you actually care about that person's time, their effort, their energy, their knowledge, instead of just trying to have them do everything for you, especially for those who pretty much do this for free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a few ways that you can better prepare yourself for budget travel and how to develop your own budget, and then you can reach out to us for a little bit of help. So the very first thing you want to take into consideration, where are you going? If you're my sister and you say, hey Eric, I want to go to Europe for 2 months, how much should I take? I can answer that question for the most part because it's my sister. I know her. I know what she likes to do. But somebody who I never met, that I don't know anything about, I can't answer that question. So something you really have to realize is that the cost of travel in France is going to be different than the cost of travel in Germany, which is going to be different than the cost of travel in Morocco, which is different than the cost of travel in Chile. You have to decide where you're going to go. Now, if you're going to do a 15-country around the world tour, that's a whole nother budget system. But if you're going to do a 2-month trip in a certain region, narrow down what countries you want to go to and then research those countries. And once you research those countries, you reach out to those of us who've been to those countries. You asking me that very broad question, or anybody that very broad question, it can't be answered until you answer this question: what country you're going to go to. And the second part of this answer is, what's your travel style? And this is a little more difficult than what country you're going to go to. What country you're going to go to, that's pretty straightforward. But what is your travel style? And I think a lot of people don't even know what their travel style is because a lot of people don't travel as much as I do, for example. It's difficult. It's really tough because I like to step back and say that you should narrow down your travel style based on 2 things. Your preference for lodging, your preference for dining. Those 2 things will quickly settle what your travel style is. If you're okay with staying in hostels and eating street food, you're a backpacker. Pretty straightforward. If you only stay in 5-star hotels and you enjoy Michelin star restaurants, you're a higher end luxury traveler. All right. It's those who are in the middle that are a little more difficult. Now, you can stay, and it also depends on where in the world you're going to go to. For example, I'll stay in 5-star hotels in Asia all the time, but Europe, not so much, because they're significantly cheaper in Asia than they are in Europe. So I'm more of a mid-range. Sometimes I'm backpacking, sometimes I'm staying in 5-star hotels. It just kind of depends on what's going on. And I think that's important. I think most people are going to fall into that range, especially once you crack the age of 30. Once you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you're going to want to get out of hostels. It's just kind of the transition of it. So I would say make sure, figure out what kind of accommodation you're comfortable with. Hostels, Airbnbs, hotels. Couch surfing is also an option. Camping is also an option. Figure that out first, then figure out how you want to eat. If you're okay with eating fast food, if you want 3 meals a day, if you want to go fine dining once or twice a week, if you're okay with eating street food where available, if you're okay with eating doner kebabs every day in Germany. So once you figure those 2 things out, you can figure out your travel style. So the very foundation of pretty much all budgets, and people totally forget about this, is airfare. I mean, airfare really is, it's one of the non-negotiables of travel, really. You have a lot of options in, say, Asia or Europe for discount airlines where you can buy something last minute. But when it comes to transatlantic flights, international flights for the most part from the West, those are a little more set in stone. For example, if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, you can get cheap flights, international. For example, you can get very, very cheap flights. I mean, around 200, 250 one way from New York to London. It's really, really cheap from the East Coast. From the West Coast, you can get relatively cheap flights around $300, $350 to Asia from the West Coast, from SFO, from LAX, from Oakland also. You got to figure out those options. Now, if you're somewhere in Nebraska or Oklahoma, it might be a little more difficult, and that airfare is going to be significantly higher. I can tell you, I'm from Texas, so being in Texas, man, airfare was insane trying to get international from Texas. You always had to connect somewhere else unless you're lucky enough to get a flight out of Houston. And Houston recently has started to get some really cheap international flights, but it hasn't always been that way. So airfare, definitely when you're budgeting for your trip, factor in airfare immediately. That should be the very first thing that you're worried about. So this next thing is, it just depends on what's going on with the government and what year we're talking about. Visa costs. A lot of people are grabbing these glitch fares or error fares that keep popping up on Facebook pages, not realizing that a lot of these places you actually need a visa, and then they show up and yeah, it's turn around and go home kind of deal. For Vietnam, for example, Vietnam last year was like 17 to 30. It was really cheap for the visa. I think it was like $30. I can't remember. It was around $30, but this year it shot up to like $140, like in a year's period. On the flip side of that, Chile, Santiago, Chile, the country, used to have a reciprocity fee. It was $160, I believe. Now they don't have that fee. Argentina still does have that fee. So visa costs and reciprocity fees, which are reciprocity fees are the same thing as visa fees, really can increase the cost of your trip. So always budget visas into your planning, especially if you're going to be hopping around countries. For example, Europe is easy. Schengen visa has made it nothing to hop between countries, but South America is not anything like that. You have to get separate visas. Like Argentina, Chile, right there next to each other. There's two separate visas for Americans. Well, it used to be. Excuse me, Chile not anymore. It used to be. Brazil does. So Brazil and Argentina are a better example. So that's just a couple quick points on budgeting. I didn't want to go too deep into this, make a 20-minute video about it. But definitely, this is something. There are a lot of things that you can do for yourself before you ask for help, and especially if you ask for help and you don't fill in these blanks. These are really the blanks that we definitely need if we're going to help you properly. Where are you going? What's your travel style? How long? And have you arranged airfare? Yeah, these are really just very basic things, and once you give us that information, we can help you with tours and accommodation offers and what cities to go to, and exactly what kind of things you should be doing in these countries, and help you put together a budget. So comment below if you guys have any more specific budget organization questions, how to plan your travels, and have you ever put together a travel budget? I know a lot of my readers and viewers have done travel budgets in the past, and what did you use? Personally, I'm a big fan of Excel spreadsheets. I use Excel spreadsheets to pretty much plan everything that has to do with the money in my life. So yeah, again, if you liked this video, if you hated this video, leave a comment below, share, subscribe, and remember, leave the world better than you found it. I'll see you guys in the next video.